to get it started with the Detroit Lions. Young team. Obviously, they showed a lot of promise last season. And, depending on how they fare in this draft, considering what they've done in free agency thus far, they have a legitimate opportunity to compete in that NFC North. You know what I mean? They are talented enough. They got some work to do on the defensive side of the ball, but they've already made several investments on the defensive side of the ball via free agency. So it'll come down to the draft. It really will come down to the draft. But really exciting young team here. We got Derek checking in. What's going on, Derek? Gentlemen, we're not going to waste any more time. Let's jump into the Detroit Lions. All right. And they have the 6th overall pick. And what do you do with the likes of Jalen Carter, Will Anderson off the board? Tyree Wilson is a name that we have associated with the Lions from time to time as well. He is not available. This seemed to be a perfect spot for our top corner, Christian Gonzalez. I know a lot of people like Devin Witherspoon in this spot, but of course, Emmanuel Moseley, Sutton, those are the corners. Those are the 2 big free agent signings on the defensive side of the ball thus far in Detroit. So what do you do here with the 6th overall pick, Headley?
I think getting the front 7, particularly the front 4, right? They drafted Aiden Hutchinson last year. I think they need to add to that. Also, Tyree Wilson's off the board, Carter and Will Anderson. Those would be the guys. But, with them all off the board,
what do you do?
He was signed to a 1-year deal. Emmanuel Moseley was a 1-year deal, $6 million. He's coming off of an injury. So if you want to bolster your cornerback position even more, I'm not mad at Gonzalez or Witherspoon. Trade down is also in the works since your guys are off the board. You can accumulate more picks. We're not going to go crazy with C.J. Stroud. I think Jared Goff, I think he's done well. That trade for Stafford, I think, has worked out well for the Lions. The Lions' offense was humming all season. So, it's pretty much the defense for the Lions that we need to improve. So I wouldn't go the quarterback route right here either. So it's either a trade down, one of those top corners, or if you want to reach, not a reach, but you got a Lucas Van Ness there, you got a Miles Murphy, you got guys like that you probably could get a little later.
What about you, Drew? I'm looking at C.J. Stroud there, man, and I would agree with you. I would agree with you, that generally speaking, I'm comfortable with Jared Goff going into the 2023 season if Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud aren't available, right? And we're not anticipating either of those players being available to the Lions, right? I'm not quite as bullish on Anthony Richardson and Will Levis. Obviously, they're very talented. They're special athletes. Anthony Richardson's out of this world. I would consider perhaps those quarterbacks at 18 potentially, depending on who else is on the board. But certainly the 2 guys that would make me stop and think about, what? Of course, we don't have to start them right away. Jared Goff did play well last year. I'm a big Jared Goff fan, probably the biggest Jared Goff fan on this panel. But C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young, man, I don't know if I could pass it up unilaterally. Obviously, this is going to be a combined decision here. But unilaterally, I'm not sure I would be able to pass up C.J. Stroud if he were to fall.
Well, I'll say this: it does make it interesting that C.J. Stroud is there, and if he is there at 6 by some magical, him or Bryce Young is there by some craziness. I think. I don't know, with all the love for AR and all the love for C.J. Stroud right now, that's really what I'm hearing. Bryce Young is the one that could fall. How far he'll fall, I don't think he'll fall this fall, but if he does, he could be there. I mean, listen, if it's him or C.J. Stroud there at 6, I don't know how you pass that up, but understand something. Jared Goff is 28. The GM went and got him. That was his guy. That's what he wanted, right? So it's probably, if I had to say, if one of those quarterbacks is there at 6, it's probably a trade down. But if those 3 top corners are on the board, though, even though they got they kind of shored up the corner position or made it a position of strength or a position of non-concern within the first round, maybe 2, because we know the cornerback class is deep, they might trade down because a team might come up want that quarterback, might want those cornerbacks. You know what I'm saying? So, and like Kelly said, with the pass rushers off the board, the big boys, it's kind of like, what do you do here? If it's me, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I probably lock in a corner, or maybe I just go Nolan Smith, man, and keep it moving. That's where I'm at. That's where I'm at.
I mentioned at the beginning that, cornerback may not necessarily be in the plans considering what they did in free agency, but you guys both make a good point. It just you're not. It doesn't force your hand, but you can never have enough good corners. And Moseley's deal is a 1-year deal, right? And now you're getting your pick of the litter among the corners. I think with the quarterback on the board here, if you're not going to go quarterback, I would trade down. I think ultimately that's what I would do. I would look for that quarterback needy, interested team to see whether or not they would be willing to come up if a guy like CJ Stroud, Bryce Young were to slide a little bit, right? That would be my mindset at this juncture. Anthony Richardson and Bryce Young in this particular mock draft already off the board. The Texans didn't go with a quarterback. That being said, they would still be in the market for a quarterback. Are you willing to trade down to 12 here? If we're thinking realistically, yeah, I'm sure Atlanta would be interested in the CJ Stroud if they were to fall to him. But Hadley, do you think Atlanta gets aggressive if he gets past Seattle? Think they get aggressive?
I would. If I'm Atlanta and a Stroud is falling, and I could trade up and get him at 6, but I would probably pull the trigger. I know we got Desmond Ridder, but CJ Stroud's a special talent, and you can win right away with Stroud on your roster.
So let's give that a shot then. Let's give that a shot. Let's see if we can net an additional 3rd-round pick perhaps from Atlanta by sliding down a couple spots. Yeah, they're willing to do business. I got to push it. Yeah, let's do it.
I wonder who they're going to pick.
Shades.
It'll be interesting. We might miss out on the Christian Gonzalez. There's a chance for that, but we do like Devin Witherspoon, Joey Porter quite a bit. And then of course we could prioritize that edge or that defensive, that down line player, Luke Van Ness. Drew mentioned Nolan Smith, Miles Murphy, so on and so forth. So a lot of options here. Lot of options here. But in this particular scenario, again, if you're deciding we're going to move forward with Jared Goff and perhaps bring in a young quarterback later, I think at best you trade down under these circumstances. Again, me personally, individually, I would be hard pressed to draft CJ Stroud. I really would, and that's coming from a Jared Goff truther, to be honest with you. So, yeah, let's see what happens. Up Gonzalez and Levis. Wow. Go with the next 2 picks. CJ Stroud is still on the board. You trade down again. I think the next trade partner, the next legitimate trade partner at this point is Houston at 12.
Houston at 12. Trying to move to 12.
Yeah, I think it's either a Witherspoon or what Drew said, like a Nolan Smith there.
Not an additional trade down.
We'll probably lose.
Yeah,
I imagine we probably lose Nolan, and we probably lose.
I think we'll lose Witherspoon if we trade down.
Yeah, we would. Yeah, be Porter may be there still.
Helly, do you want to prioritize the corner?
I'm fine with Nolan for the Lions. It's a bigger need at edge. Like you said, they shored up the cornerback position. And Nolan Smith's a fast riser. Put him on the edge opposite Aiden Hutchinson, and you can get after quarterbacks all day long. So I like Nolan Smith here for the Lions.
All right, so we're gonna trade down twice here. It was real interesting. Again, CJ Stroud being available. I know there's going to be a certain contingency upon the Detroit Lion faithful that says, "What are you doing? Draft CJ Stroud." There'll also be a group that says, "You know what? We're good at quarterback. We want to continue to outfit this roster. We want to prioritize the defense. We're right there on the cusp. We have a young team, one of the better offensive lines in the league. So we don't necessarily have to go the rookie quarterback route, even though Stroud again would make me think twice about it. So let's see what we can net in this trade down with Houston. We'll offer him the 8th overall pick. And once again, I'm looking for a 3 and a 4. And we get it done.
Loaded up, bro.
All right. There's a CJ Stroud. Witherspoon goes to the Eagles.
The Bucks giving a whole draft.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
I can't imagine that they would actually do that. So we're gonna reject that one. Joey Porter's there if you're interested in the corner, and then of course there's a Lucas Van Ness as well as a Nolan Smith. BJ Ojulari is one of the favorites among this particular group. So who's it going to be? Christian Gonzalez.
Yeah, Christian Gonzalez.
That's Christian Gonzalez is the answer to that question, Derek.
I even have Gonzalez over Tyree Wilson.
Tyree Wilson. I was going to say that. Yeah. Absolutely. I got Nolan over him too.
We traded down with Nolan Smith as our target. So Yeah, so I'm not mad at Nolan Smith. BJ Ojulari is my guy.
Sure.
But Lions fans, they might go crazy. We go get Ojulari here, but I think he's the better player. I think Ojulari over Nolan Smith.
Wow. Think Ojulari's a better player?
For me, yeah.
Wow.
We've seen it. Seen it on tape, man.
I think he's the better pass rusher.
We all got
he's the better pass rusher, but as a complete player, I think Nolan Smith is the better player. There's more flash in Ojulari for sure, but I think Nolan is because again, you got to think about what they were asking Nolan to do, man. He didn't really get a chance to kind of just take off and do his thing. He had a lot of responsibilities versus BJ Ojulari, who just got to do what he do. You know what I mean? So I think
quarterback.
I think Nolan is. I think he's untapped, man. We just don't know.
I think that's a good point. I'm not going to debate, who's the better. What I do agree that Ojulari has demonstrated more from a pass rush standpoint, but I think in terms of what Georgia has asked Nolan Smith to do, I think that depressed what he could potentially do as a pass rusher, right? So it is a projection. It certainly is a projection. We all agree that it seems like the consensus is too low on BJ Ojulari. I think we all agree with that notion. But Nolan Smith was our target. We get him at 12 after 2 trade downs. So we traded down to 8th overall, traded down once more to 12th. Houston Texans traded up to get the CJ Stroud, who was sliding. And then we nabbed Nolan Smith, bolster our pass rush and the defense as a whole, because obviously he's excellent. He's very stout against the run. Okay, Van Ness. Joey Porter.
Gone.
Right before us at 18.
Oh, we could have scooped him.
That would have been good.
We could have got a 2-for-1 on him, man. Probably wouldn't took much too to get there.
All right. So, unfortunately, even though we've added a ton of draft capital, we didn't get either of the 3 top corners. So we talked about it, reiterated once more. The Lions obviously made it a point to add a veteran talent at the cornerback position, and they're guys that are in their prime. They're not necessarily guys who are on the backside of their careers, but you can never have enough good corners. And certainly when you talk about the likes of a Christian Gonzalez, Devin Witherspoon, Joey Porter, adding them to the mix, especially if you don't necessarily know what you want to do with Jeff Okudah long term, certainly is in the cards. But again, not necessarily a need. So which direction do you go in here now with the 18th overall pick?
I'm looking at the tight end position. Traded T.J. Hawkinson to your division rivals, the Minnesota Vikings. I think this 18th pick, you got Michael Mayer, Kincaid, Darnell Washington. Whoever's higher on your board, I think you go get. For me, Mayer is higher on my board, but Kincaid is the best pass catching tight end in the class. So if you want to have that offense more explosive, I think Kincaid's the guy.
If you're looking for the more complete player at the position, you're talking about Michael Mayer. It's like, hey man, you know what? Let's just flip the coin. Somebody's head, somebody's tails. Flip it.
You already know who I want. You already know.
Yeah, you want Kincaid. You call him that's baby Kelsey Light, if you will, or Kelsey Light to come. You know what I'm saying? Kelsey 2.0.
Listen, I won't bat an eyelash if we go with Michael Mayer. I'm just telling you who my vote is for.
So this is what I'm going to say. I'm going to say let's go Kincaid, and here's why. Because that offensive line is already bestial. You don't necessarily need a beast at the tight end position, but you do need a playmaker at the tight end. And there's different things you can do with Kincaid, just like what Kansas City does with Kelsey. So let's add that dynamic into the offense with what they already have.
If I'm not mistaken, the Lions did add more of an inline presence to the tight end room via free agency, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody had fact check me on that, but I really do believe they brought somebody in here recently. So Dalton Kincaid is our pick, 18th overall. Some folks might feel like that's a bit too early for him, but the stress that he's going to put on the opposing defenses, I can only imagine it. And you got St. Brown out there. You get a full year of Jameson Williams. We will probably add a receiver at some point. Yeah, now we're getting really sexy, and we can beat you in a lot of different ways here. So Dalton Kincaid is the pick. All right, we got a little bit of a wait here. I think Ojulari went much earlier than he typically has.
Yeah,
so
should start going earlier.
The respect
Waking
factor
up.
may be coming around. Yeah,
gotta wake him up, man.
All right.
Bijan to the Lions. I was thinking about that over tight end. The only issue is that they just brought in Montgomery, so it kind of makes it a moot point.
I think with the Montgomery addition, I agree with you, Drew. It does become a bit of a moot point. I guess just in terms of the type of back he is, that there is similarities in terms of their game, right? As far as DeAndre Swift is concerned, not the same player. Don't get me wrong, not the same player, but there are some similarities in terms of their game. I think they were looking for more of a bit of a sledgehammer, and ultimately added David Montgomery, a guy that they're really familiar with, having played his entire career, with the Chicago Bears. All right, we got 48th pick. Speaking of running backs, Jahmyr Gibbs is sitting there in our face. What direction do you go in here?
We can fix our whole D line in this draft, because I think our next pick is 55. You get like a D tackle, 2 D tackles on the inside, a big boy, and somebody get after the quarterback.
How do you feel about Ika in this scheme?
He'd be all right.
Nose, right?
Like, line him up at the
nose. Put him at the nose. You got Adam Morey at the D tackle on the 3 tech.
Take up space and keep your linebackers free flowing.
There's a lot of 34. We saw Aiden Hutchinson standing up. James Houston standing up.
Yeah.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Go ahead, get my Ika and let's move on.
Ika. We have Nolan Smith and Hutchinson standing up. We got Ika on the inside playing the nose.
Nasty.
Yeah, you got to get a 5 technique later on, maybe.
Run it. They like to call him Vita Light, if you will. I don't think he's as athletic as a Vita.
What? You just said a bunch of words. I don't actually know what you said.
Let me slow it down. Vita Vea Light or Vita Vea like?
Okay.
All right, that was clear, clean.
Hey man, Drew Sanders still out here, man.
We got to go get him. We got to go get him right here.
Pause real quick. I just wanna. You got Jack Campbell out there. We got a Drew Sanders. Drew Sanders is a little bit more of a splash player, a little bit more of a playmaker. I love Drew Sanders. A lot you can do with him. If you're talking about they playing the Legos in the defense, he's the better fit. Jack Campbell's more of a old school, sturdy middle linebacker, instinctive, knowing where he's supposed to be. I'm just letting people know, who do you prefer here? I prefer Drew Sanders. I think we all prefer Drew Sanders. I don't want to leave Jack Campbell out there. Give him his love, man.
I mean, obviously, I can see Jack Campbell in his defense as well.
Absolutely,
one of those inside linebacker positions. They re-up with Alex Anzalone. I think either of those players work here. I mean, we could take a quick look to see if there's anybody else we'd like to prioritize and perhaps pivot to Jack Campbell, because we have the 65th pick as well. We added in the trade, but I don't know that there is.
No, I don't think so. I think you're right.
Derek, you think guard? You think guard is what they need?
They're saying guard.
Well, they got Jonah Jackson, Vitae. I think those guys been playing well. They got Glasgow.
And Glasgow they just signed Glasgow, yeah. So I think they're okay.
I consider the O-line the strength of this team. I do think they need to add some depth a little bit later, but certainly we don't necessarily have to prioritize it. The only consideration is expiring contracts. That's really the only consideration for me at this juncture of the draft.
I'd probably add a tackle before I would add a guard, but that's just for depth, in terms of depth purposes for me.
Yeah.
That's player available.
All right, let's do it.
Didn't he lead Arkansas in sacks? We know Bumper Pool had the most tackles.
He was at one point. I think he was leading the nation in sacks early in the season.
Yeah,
I think kind of fell off a little bit
in terms of. I know Haley had pointed it out before in a previous show. He has issues with making tackles. So low that missed tackle percentage is a lot higher than you would want it to be at that position. So if you were to go Jack Campbell over Drew Sanders, I think that would probably be the reason why. But it's something you could clean up, because I think he's trying to get in there, make the tackle go hard. He's just got to slow down, break down, and, get his technique right. We up again?
Oh, Hendon Hooker on the board.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, man. I was thinking that's the consolation prize to a Stroud, man. I like the Hendon Hooker right here, man.
You like the Hendon Hooker here?
Yeah, I like the Hendon Hooker.
I like it too. I was going through it all, but
And this is one of those things where you have Goff, obviously, still on the roster. He's the starting quarterback. Hendon Hooker doesn't have to come in and start right away. You can sit him down. He can watch, because the biggest concern right now with Hendon Hooker outside of the injury is can he actually handle an NFL offense? Because the offense he's coming out as Tennessee is, it was almost one read. They defenses couldn't figure it out. He threw it to the open guy. Can't blame him for it. But you always wonder about his degree of understanding and actually reading a defense in its entirety versus just one side of the field. So, yeah,
I think this shows a lot of confidence in Goff as well, right?
Right.
Hooker obviously is a talent. There's no question about that.
Mm-hmm.
You do need to back Goff up. I think it's important that you have competent quarterbacks behind your starter, a competent quarterback behind your starter. You likely not to have more than one, but this really, to me, when you draft the Hooker, you draft CJ Stroud, it's a different conversation, right?
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? That is now swirling about Detroit and that locker room and that building. Whereas with Hendon Hooker, I don't think anybody's going to bat an eyelash in terms of who the starter is, right? Hendon Hooker is, I mean, that's house money, effectively. You got a competent backup, hopefully, certainly a talented one. If he's forced into play, he gives you a viable option at the quarterback position.
Yep.
Yeah, I think another knock on Hooker is the age also. I think he's coming in maybe at 25 years old. You said Goff was 28, so they're close in age. But I like the competition. If you want to go with a cheaper route at quarterback in the future, I think Hendon Hooker, he could learn the ropes from Goff a little bit and learn the offense.
Oh, definitely. And Derek, I
Oh yeah,
mean,
there you go. That's what I was
there it
getting at,
is
man.
right there. There it is. No, but in all seriousness, right? You're not paying
Sit
a
it
first
out.
round contract to have a guy
Yeah.
sit, in this particular instance. And who knows? Who knows if Hendon Hooker actually finishes this season, we could be talking about Heisman. We could be talking about college football playoffs. He could be a first round pick. He could very well have been a first round pick. So I think this represents great value here in the third round. All right. We're actually back on the clock. So, gentlemen, which direction you want to go in? What area of the football team do we want to bolster? We talked about cornerback early. There's some guys here. I think certainly with all that additional draft capital that we have, and of course the draft capital that the Lions were entering the draft with, we could certainly get a guy that we like, i.e., Eli Ricks. I know
There's
DJ
Rush.
Turner has the speed.
Yeah.
Maybe not necessarily the level of physicality that we're looking for down in and down out. Certainly for an Aaron Glenn led team, I'm not sure. Dan Campbell led team, I'm not sure if that's going to fit, but he is a local guy. Darius Rush, Garrett Williams, Trevius Hodges, Tomlinson, Riley Moss, Eli Ricks, I think has good size. We haven't talked a whole lot about him on the channel. As a matter of fact, let's spend a little time on Eli Ricks. What in your evaluation, Headley Drew, where do you have Eli Ricks? What do you think he does well? What do you think he needs to work on?
Well, he has that length. He used the sideline as an extra defender. I think he'd be perfect in like a cover 3 scheme, maybe cover 2. He'd come up, hit, tackle. He's just not the most shiftiest. His hips are not as fluid, so he could get beat on the inside. But you're talking about length and one of those guys that's a prototypical cover 3 guy, cover down the field, use the sideline as an extra defender, and attack the football. He's always around the football, so you just got to watch out for maybe some pass interference at the next level because he's really sticky. But he gets his hands in there all the time, though.
Yeah, Ellie just took everything I wanted to say, man. He keeps he's better. When I watch him, he's better with his eyes on the quarterback, being able to make a play on the football. So I think zone would be best fit for him. I was thinking when he went over to Alabama, I was thinking, okay, I know Alabama does a little bit more in terms of what they ask of their corners, whether it be man or zone. And I wanted to see what does that look like with Alabama. I know we know he got a late start. I think was he injured when he first started the season?
No,
if he's injured, if he was just
getting acclimated. He's getting acclimated.
Yeah, and it wasn't Eli Ricks that we know, and obviously I wanted to see him in a different scheme. So it kind of checked the box for me in terms of what he should be playing in. It should be in a zone, whether it be cover 2, cover 3, has his eyes on the quarterback in the backfield, making plays on the football.
75th overall pick. We got an edge rusher. We've gotten big up front with Siaka Ika. Of course, we replace Hawkinson with Dalton Kincaid. That's an upgrade in my eyes. Drew Sanders falls to us the 55th overall, great value. And then, of course, we got a backup for Jared Goff and Hendon Hooker, a guy who has a lot of talent, a lot of upside. So we're sitting pretty, and we got a lot of draft picks remaining, fairly high draft picks as well, considering where we're at in the draft. So with the 75th overall pick, which position do you guys want to address? I know I mentioned receiver earlier. Let's take a look. Let's take a look there. There's a couple guys there at the top that I know
I like
you
both those
two are
guys.
both fans of. So,
oh yeah,
who do you think fits based on what we have now? So, of course, we have the speedster and Jameson Williams that we hope to get a full season out of him. Of course, we have Monroe St. Brown, slot dynamo. He's been Jared Goff's favorite receiver. We added Dalton Kincaid, another element to this offense. I believe DJ Chark will be on the move. So, ultimately, among the receivers currently on the board, which direction would you go in?
Me and Cedric Tillman, you know that. I know me and Drew might have to fight on this one, but I know that Rasheed Rice is your guy. But, Tillman, I think he's a perfect complement to this offense. You got the speedster, Jameson Williams. You got St. Brown doing everything inside. And then you just got a man in Cedric Tillman to create those, those third down catches, get that separation at the top of his routes, physical. So I think it's a perfect complement. And Rasheed Rice can kind of do a lot of the same things, but Tillman is more polished, in my opinion.
I'm going to go Rasheed Rice here, man. I like the size. Like you said, I like the physicality. I think he's interchangeable in terms of in the slot, on the outside boundary, wherever you want to put him. But we could talk about what grade we gave them. But when you start talking about teams and fits, things start to shift and change. And
sure.
and for these two players for the Lions, I don't really. It almost doesn't matter to me. Just pick who you have higher. I just happen to have Rasheed Rice higher. Helly happens to have Tillman higher. So we leaving it to you, Juice. Break the tie, man.
So let me ask a question though. Let me ask a question. Hadley said Tillman's more polished than Rasheed Rice. What does Rasheed Rice do better than Tillman? Where do you give Rice the edge? I know they're close. I know there's some similarities in terms of what they bring to the table, but what separates Tillman, or rather Rice, from Tillman, even if it's not a huge gap for you?
For Drew. Okay.
Yeah.
I would say his physicality, and he brings that Steve Smith, bro. We didn't see it at the Senior Bowl, really. And when I say Steve Smith, I mean that physical, I don't care who's across from me. And you know how I feel about that aura that permeates through the team. It can change things, make people do things that they may not have been capable of doing. That's an intangible that I don't think Tillman has over Rice.
Helly, you were going with the yak, right?
Yep, yards after the catch. Yep.
Yeah,
that's when I think Rice separates himself from Tillman.
Yeah, I think in this offense, I might value that a little bit more.
I'm mad at it.
Okay. Get the ball out of the quarterback's hands on that turf. You know what I'm saying? Let the guys get out in space and go to work. So I think I might value just a little bit. Again, very, very close. Very, very close. You guys put it on me to break the tie. I think going to Drew's point regarding the fit, both are physical. So guys that Dan Campbell, like I said, will like. They'll stick their nose in there. They'll block. They'll finish. I'll go with Rasheed Rice in this particular instance, but very little separates Cedric Tillman and Rasheed Rice in my eyes. I think it does come down to fit. Oftentimes, it really does come down to fit. All right. And just like that, we're back on the board.
Chill. Quick.
Go grab that corner.
Yeah, I think it's about time.
Check safety for me real quick. I just want to see.
I will check safety. Some decent offers out there, but I mean, like I said, considering the draft capital we have, we're just going with the top players on our board at whichever respective position we're interested in. There are your safeties.
Call him a Sith Lord with the tight ends.
Iceberg, yeah. Yeah. I think Dallas could use another tight end, like a Kincaid. They lost Dalton Schultz, so yeah, I can see it.
I'm mad at it. Now we don't need to draft a safety. We can wait. I like Jimmy Robinson for them boys, but Jammy, as we call him. But now let's get our corner and let's be out. So this is how I see this, right? You got Eli Ricks, who's the zone corner, who we think can play, should be sitting in the zone. And you have Darius Rush, who I think is more of a man corner. Who would you prefer for this defense?
Aaron Glenn might get that more of that the man look. Maybe Darius Rush.
And we love us some Travius Hodges Tomlinson, but he didn't have a good combine, and he is a smaller player. And if you're going to be a corner that, because I think he can play inside, outside. I think, Helly, you feel more. He can probably play more of the nickel. Guys willing to come down, bang. He is a guy that will go up and get the football, but he's not that big, and he didn't show up at the combine. Maybe his pro day changes some things, but right now I think Darius Rush has got the is ahead of him essentially.
O-line
I'm okay with it.
Yeah, Derek's right too. They got a good starting 5 offensive line, but they can use some depth there also.
I'm thinking at 104, Derek. That's when we take a look at that offensive line. I like Darius Rush. If we're gonna go with corner here, I'm thinking Darius Rush. I think the polish, his ability to play in multiple schemes. I love what he can do in man-to-man coverage. He has that confidence with that 4.36 speed. He wasn't talked about very much, but really getting a chance to see him live in Mobile opened up our eyes, and he nailed the pre-draft process. You go back to the tape, and it's reflected on tape. It was interesting how they kind of deployed their players, whether it be Cam Smith or Darius Rush, but I think Darius Rush has helped himself a lot. Garrett Williams came off the board a few picks earlier. Might have gone in that particular direction had he been available, but considering who's on the board, where we're at in the draft, my vote is for Darius Rush.
Oh, you select him? Go ahead.
Yeah, Darius Rush.
I mean, confirm it.
We thought you selected him.
I said my vote, bro. I didn't say I was selected.
I said Darius Rush too. So.
It's too much. Well, no, I'm with Darius Rush. I was just talking about both players. I'm good with Darius Rush.
All right, let's go.
Actually, 3 players with Tomlinson there as well.
A-Chain disrespect continues. Oh, he just got picked.
Nonsense.
Of course, that's where he goes, man.
Whippler and Tippmann just went off the board. Yes, you got Blake Freeland there, though.
Yeah, I'm down with me some Blake Freeland.
Cedric Tillman's still out here. What?
Yeah, that's crazy.
What? Do you pass up Cedric Tillman? I don't know.
No, I think in reality,
hey man, we drafted Cedric Tillman, bro. We drafted him. Bro.
Yeah, you gotta draft him.
We drafted him. We'll try to get at 113.
No, hold on. But before you draft, if he was not there, I would go offensive tackle Blake Freeland.
Blake Freeland.
Yes. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
But hey, if we draft Tillman, we're gonna lose Freeman now.
Yeah. No. I was just saying, no, we drafted Tillman. I'm just saying if Tillman wasn't there.
Yeah. We pivoted to Wanya. We going Jackson Kirkland. We going somewhere else. We going Warren McClendon later. We doing something different.
We got Ryan Hayes sitting there. Yeah.
All right, Cedric Tillman. So we had a conversation, right, at 75, whether it's going to be Cedric Tillman or Rashee Rice. Here we are at 104, and we get Cedric Tillman.
Could you imagine that receiver room?
Bruh.
Crazy receiver room.
And I believe Freeland is available.
Oh, perfect.
There it is.
There he is.
Yeah, there he is. They go that offensive line.
All right.
Excellent decision right there.
So a little bit of a wait here. Thus far, traded down twice in the first round. Ultimately landed with Nolan Smith. Of course, we had 2 first-round selections. I added Dalton Kincaid, Siaka Ika to really bolster that down line, to be our pivot in our odd man front. Drew Sanders making plays at the second level of the defense. Hendon Hooker to back up Jared Goff. I think he comes at great value with the 65th overall pick. Again, we just mentioned it. Rashee Rice, Cedric Tillman at 75. We ultimately went with Rashee Rice. Darius Rush, the 81st overall pick. Of course, you can see the picks we acquired via trade. There was a pair of third-round picks as well as a pair of fourth-round picks that netted us Hendon Hooker, Rashee Rice, Cedric Tillman, and most recently Blake Freeland. We are now at 152. Oh my! Kirby Joseph, Jartavius Martin. That's a reunion right there, isn't it?
That is a reunion.
Some excellent running backs still on the board too.
Mm-hmm.
I know obviously David Montgomery was a bit of a priority for the Lions. It appears to pair him up with DeAndre Swift. That should form a good backfield, but still quality running backs. We've talked about that ad nauseum, that this is a very, very deep running back class. So you're going to be able to get a guy that I think ultimately will turn into starters in day 3, is my opinion. I'm looking at Jartavius Martin at this juncture. I just want to take another look around. Is there any other area that we would want to prioritize potentially?
Look at interior line real quick. Just want to see what's
interior. Jared Patterson. I like Andrew Voorhees. I know he's injured.
Right.
There's my guy McClendon Curtis, Seam Richards, Alex Forsyth, Drew Scruggs.
Yeah, I think we can. Scoop the safety.
Yeah, let's go get the safety, and then we'll come back to the offensive line. Yeah, I was just checking for your boy Davis Allen real quick. He is gone. Zach Kuntz, one of the combine standouts at tight end. Yeah, as well as Jartavius Martin.
I'm also looking at defensive line on the interior. Well, he's an edge. I like Isaiah McGuire also. He's a big guy. Uses his hands well. Got a nice burst. And I saw him give Broderick Jones fits against Georgia time after time. So I think he's a really good player.
You want to go there over safety? Because I
love Martin.
Okay,
Martin's my guy. So yeah, I like
think
him
we go with
McGuire.
Martin here. Yeah.
I'm just bringing up some strength.
Yeah.
Okay.
On the inside. I know we got Ika.
That hard hitting analysis.
Yeah.
It's that hard hitting analysis, man. This is a pretty draft class to this point, man. I must say. Guys flying off the board here. 2 selections remaining, unless of course we trade down. Add another pick. Why the hell not?
Okay.
All right. No. Now you're becoming ridiculous, Texans.
Giving the rest of their draft away for 1 pick in the 6th round.
Yeah.
Right, so
there go. Yeah.
Take a quick look around the bend.
Jalen Redmond out there.
Yeah, Jalen, I like that.
Colburn. McClendon
Curtis, if you want to lock in that interior offensive lineman.
I would prefer to do that if we can, but
Puka. It's my guy Keaton Mitchell, Muhammad Ibrahim, Evan Hull. Still quality backs in the 6th round. Yeah, I like the McClendon Curtis. Hopefully we can follow that up with a Jalen Redmond. Let's see.
Sneaking a running back in there?
Yeah. No, maybe. Like the last pick. Let's see. All right. Let's go. Jalen Redmond.
There he is.
Some juice on the inside.
Derek, you're right. Build a team basically off this draft alone, man. It's a good start.
Absolutely. I mean, you gotta be excited. You gotta be excited if you're a Lions fan, man. Certainly if you're just a fan of football in general, this is a team that's on the rise, and they are armed with the draft capital. Of course, we added quite a bit in this draft by trading down, but it's a distinct possibility for them, depending on how the quarterback situation plays out. Once you get past Seattle, things get really, really interesting. You understand what I'm saying? And Detroit has the draft capital to get really aggressive, or decide, hey, let's add some more. Let's give ourselves as many swings at this as possible. All right, we have 1 pick remaining to this point. Nolan Smith, Dalton Kincaid, Siaka Ika, Drew Sanders, Hendon Hooker, Rasheed Rice, Darius Rush, Cedric Tillman, Blake Freeland, Jartavius Martin, McClendon Curtis, Jalen Redmond. We went Senior Bowl heavy there.
Go ahead.
3.
Go ahead, get your guy, bro. We don't need to discuss. You don't got to look nothing else. Just get your guy, bro. Scroll down. Just one.
Down.
Yeah, right there.
Keaton.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Go ahead, add Keaton.
Yeah, just I don't know. We don't need
to get some more explosiveness out here. Swift has battled injury. Swift has battled injury, and what Mitchell does in space is not unlike what Swift gives you.
Yep.
So I like it. Let's do it. All right. How break it down, bro?
All right, at the top, man, we traded down twice. Lions already had a lot of picks going in, but we accumulated more. Got the guy we targeted, Nolan Smith, put him opposite Aiden Hutchinson. Let's get after the quarterback. With our 18th pick, we went Kincaid. We traded TJ Hawkinson. Drew says it's an upgrade over Hawkinson. I agree. Kincaid, the best pass catching tight end in the draft class. Went big with the next pick with Siaka Ika. The Lions kind of struggled a little bit against the run last season. Well, defensively as a whole. So getting Ika in the middle to shore that up, get the linebackers free. Then we got Drew Sanders. Speaking of linebackers, he's a guy that he could cover up and have him flying sideline to sideline. We can also has versatility to rush the quarterback. So if you need another pass rusher, Drew Sanders is your guy. Next week we went Hendon Hooker, getting the quarterback. We contemplated C.J. Stroud at the top, chose not to go that route, but I think Hendon Hooker is a good consolation prize there. Jared Goff is the starter, but Hooker could come in, learn the offense, and potentially be the starter of the future, even though he's only like 3 years younger than Goff. But that's another story. Then we got some receivers, man. You got Rashee Rice and Cedric Tillman. We hooked up Tillman back with his college teammate Hendon Hooker. I think both of those receivers are physical. They can play outside. I like Rashee Rice also playing inside the yards after catch ability. Him and St. Brown, that's like a deadly duel. Just get the ball in those guys' hands, and they can produce after the catch. And then we got Darius Rush at corner. We saw him at the Senior Bowl, just locking down guys, hit pocket, mirroring receivers time after time. I know Cam Smith's the South Carolina corner, but we can't forget about Darius Rush. Blake Freeland and McClendon Curtis, man. Got some depth along the offensive line. Detroit has a pretty good offensive line. That's probably one of the strengths of their teams, but adding more depth, contracts expiring. And we saw what Freeland did at the combine. This guy's like 6'7" and is an athletic freak. And then McClendon Curtis at the Senior Bowl was just hard to get around or through. He plays some tackle also, so he gives you that versatility. Jatavis Martin, man, is one of my guys where I watched him on tape. His ability to cover from the slot, play safety, the versatility. Love him. Redmond, get after the quarterback, get you that twitch. Because we had the Ika, the big body inside, so getting a Redmond to get at the quarterback with the twitchiness. And then Keaton Mitchell. I know we brought in David Montgomery, and we have Swift. Swift is battling some injuries. I think he's coming up to his last year's contract also, his rookie deal. So if you want to move on from Swift, Keaton Mitchell kind of give you kind of the same kind of package.
Yeah, with things starting to settle in, especially as a new league year starts and free agency, obviously that first wave is elapsed. The picture is coming into focus, Derek. So it really does allow us, especially considering that we've had more time to do additional film study and analysis and the grading of the players. There's a level of familiarity now with the prospects as well as the actual rosters, the NFL rosters taking shape that has allowed for this draft. I think a lot of that also has to do with what the Lions have done, right? What they've already put together. The Lions deserve credit. They've made it easy to draft for them. They really have. So again, a team I am very, very excited to watch in 2023.